The next step is what I'm going to close with, the last activity. Is that okay?
Yeah, give you some time. So can I give you one thought?
Okay.
What if you, raise your hand if you did the found home experience yesterday. How many of you all in this group did this? Did everyone do the living newspapers? Like you two did, right? But you saw it, right?
Yeah.
So you saw it. So just to practice the processing out of it, is it okay?
Sure.
You really do it 15 minutes. I think I got
I was going to process with the next thing.
As I'm watching something unfold and I'm noticing, for example, that someone isn't using the language that they really need to do to get to a specific idea, or I know very specifically that this student is working on practicing how she links together big ideas or the questioning or reflection, and I'm not seeing it in the microteach for whatever reason, if I feel like the benefit of pausing and letting her know that, giving her that constructive space so that she can then practice it for the rest of the lesson and feel the difference of what that feels like, as opposed to me giving her the note at the end of the lesson where then she could write it in a revision, but she doesn't get to see the real difference that happens in the room when she does that or he does that. Sometimes I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. So wondering a little bit about how her side coaching was in this piece. What do we think about side coaching? And again, side coaching for all of us are those moments where we're trying to guide. It's the unscripted stuff we have to do, right? Where you see what's going on and you're like trying to make adjustments in the moment and things like that.
The biggest thing I've learned about microteaching over the years of using that in a course is the focus on the revision. Actually, I think that's the biggest change I've made. When I first started out this work, I graded what the students taught in class, and that was their grade. And I realized that my students were taking no risks because they felt like they had one shot to do this. So they tried to do the safest thing that they possibly could. Sometimes it was things that they saw someone else teach, and they weren't pushing themselves. And so I found as I slowly shifted to the space that the focus was really on the revision. It was about that they could come in and say, I'm really working on this and I need help with this. And that became that sort of space for learning. Then the microteaching became, I think, much less stressful for everyone. They owned it in a different way, and they actually really started taking risks, which was huge, because then we weren't just seeing 5 people teach the same sort of safe thing. We saw people really saying, I'm really interested in this, and I'm not quite sure I'm getting it yet, but I really want to try it.
And for time, we're going to move on to the space of kind of I wonder, so questions that came up for you. And again, we're going to try to use the would you like to hear a question about, so the artist can really, because you know how it went in the moment, and maybe that you're like, I already know I'm going to fix that, so here's a about it, which is fun. So people have an I wonder.
We start out by talking about moments that we loved, so moments that really worked, and we give a lot of compliments because everyone needs that, even if it didn't feel like it went that well. And then we go next to their question, so we answer their question and give them responses to what they wanted to hear feedback on. And then we do a series of what I call I wonder statements. So it's a place for the participants to practice thinking about pedagogy when they observe it, right? And to offer a question to the facilitator, the teacher for that day, about what came up for them, something that they're wondering about.
I'm wondering if these teachers have any kind of language or understanding of performance before they just jump into it.
I also think it's incredibly important with the microteach that students get to drive the feedback initially. I think that adds a lot more power and agency to that experience, because it is scary in many ways. So they get to let us know what questions they're thinking about. It's a chance for them to say, wow, I'm really struggling over the reflection at the end of this lesson. I would love some specific feedback about those questions. So, feedback on everything, but really give me some help on that.
Well, I'm going to do one more drama activity, and then maybe we could talk about that one.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
And then I love it. And when we're looking at this together afterwards, to think about that, like
pausing,
processing that part of it. So think about that for our revision.
So microteaching becomes less about you're going to come in and do a perfect lesson and you're going to get a grade on it, but becomes a reflective process. And I would say if I want my pedagogy students to think about teaching in any way, they need to think of it as an ongoing process that we evolve and we get better at, because otherwise, teaching's too hard. I mean, it is. We're never going to be perfect teachers. We want to be reflective, responsive teachers who recognize that every time we teach, we have a new context we're dealing with, so we learn from it.